about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already, hit that like and subscribe button. Go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. Did you do it? Did you do it? Did you hit the button? Do it. So, first off, happy St. Patrick's Day. I have to say that. Don't ask me what it's about. I cannot remember. However, I was told this morning by my child that if I did not wear green, she was going to pinch me. Therefore, all of it. If I had time to do my nails, I would have did that too. Just all the green. I did not want to be pinched. And then I said to her, as she's sitting there eating breakfast, I go, "You're not wearing green. I'm gonna pinch you." And she goes, "No, you see this little tiny leaf? Like I'm talking tiny, okay? This little tiny, it's green." I'm like, "Right, you're lucky, because I had pinchy fingers out." Anyways, today with us we have Shamayne Olivia. Hello, how are you?
Hello, I'm doing well, and
I
I'm
could
not
pinch
wearing
you.
green.
I could
I know.
pinch you.
Well, my husband said you have green eyes, so you're covered. So,
Oh, so you just always have it. Does that
I,
count, guys? Tell me if that counts
no,
in
I
the
know it's
comments
trying to
below.
cheat. It's
Right? Like
cheating.
there's no effort there, which is, I mean, whatever. Um, so the other thing I want to say is, hey guys, you remember it's Mental Health Awareness Week? Oh, so excited. So we started off with a really cool episode on Sunday with Sebastian, and now we have Shamayne here, who I know is going to bring us lots more fun while we talk about really hard topics. That's what we do. Um, so tell us, who is Shamayne Olivia?
I am a woman with a mission. That's what I am. That's who I
Ooh.
am.
I got you, girl.
I, uh, I really want people to know their value and their worth, no matter who they are, no matter where they come from, whether they're in transition and trying to overcome things. They are valuable and worthy for who they are right now. Um,
So it's so funny that you say that. You have no idea why, because it has nothing to do with what you actually said. I have decided, after 5 long years of doing this wonderful show, um, that I want to make like a little coffee table book out of all the really cool things that people say. And I'll put like nature pictures in it because I pretend like I'm a photographer and I take really pretty pictures. There's one time I caught a squirrel on a fence eating a slice of pizza. It was great.
oh
Like a
my gosh.
full on slice of pizza it found is just sitting there. It's great. It's the cutest thing. So as soon as you said that your mission is that you want people to know that their value and worth, I'm like, oh, well, that's the quote for the book. Okay, interview done. I've
Oh,
got my quote. We're good to go. I
well, I
mean, it
should
might,
probably mention who I am
right?
too, I guess.
Right? It's just funny that, like, because normally it's near the end of the episode. I'm like, oh, that's a good little quote. I'll do that. But right, boom, right at the get go.
Right off the bat.
Right? So, I mean, that's why I'm laughing. So tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Sure. I am an author, speaker, and facilitator. I'm the author of Shoes That Fit Her Soul, which is based on my journey and my struggles and my challenges and overcoming them and getting through to the other side. And I decided actually to write a framework first before I even wrote the book. And so I also have a companion workbook that goes with my book, and it helps people to really come to know themselves, because I believe that the better connected we are to ourselves, our true selves, the one that's buried deep inside, but underneath all the stuff that may have created some of our struggles, that person is who we need to connect to. And with that person, we become very strong. We can do things that we never thought we could do, but it takes time to get to know that person on the inside. Actually, it's your authentic self, and that comes out eventually to be you. But the framework goes through all those steps that I created for myself without knowing it. But then I went back and studied and figured out what I had done, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, let me cut out that middle part for people and just tell them how I did it and see if they can apply it to their lives. But I came from a family that was dysfunctional, to start with, which is always, the first thing that can usually start to bring on that anxiety and
Mm-hmm.
depression and things like that that I struggled with. Um, and I was the oldest of four children, so I took on responsibilities earlier than most. I much too early for being a child, because my father was an alcoholic and my mom was codependent, and both of them were emotionally immature. So
Hmm.
that's where I
Well,
came from. And then
same,
just to give
same.
you a glimpse into where I am today, the
Mm-hmm.
last 20 years have been probably some of the hardest years, because after hitting midlife around 40, I began to struggle with who I was and where I came from. But then I also was going through perimenopause, and then I
Mm.
lost my job. I got divorced. And 4 years after my divorce, even though my ex-husband and I were still friends, we co-parented. We felt like our kids were the most
Oh,
important.
good.
And so we stayed, we did holidays and anniversaries and special occasions together, birthdays
Mm-hmm.
and graduations. We did that because we were still friends.
Oh, that's
But
good.
yeah, and unfortunately, 4 years after our divorce, he was killed in an accident.
Oh,
He
snap.
he he was a cyclist, and he was out on his morning ride one day, kind of out in the country, and a car hit him.
Oh,
So that
wow.
upended our world again.
Yeah.
So after that, that's when I really got serious about my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, and then also wanting to be the best version of myself to help my kids through this. And they were teenagers at the time, but it was a struggle, obviously, for them. They just lost
Right?
half of their family right there, with
Yeah.
their dad.
Oh.
So that's my story in a nutshell. And so my book and the workbook come from all of those experiences.
All right, now we're gonna crack it open. I don't have like a little nut. I wonder if there's like a little nut sound. I don't think so. I always forget that they have like the little medium, but there's no. I don't think there's a nut sound. Let's just use this random tune. It literally says tune 3. I don't know what it is. Let's find out. Nothing's happening.
Silence.
Okay, let's try tune 6. So that is our new nut cracking sound. I don't know about that.
Maybe
I always,
something from the Nutcracker,
right?
like the Tetris.
Exactly.
The Tetris.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I always forget they have these really cool sounds because I mean we're talking about stuff and I get distracted in life, but like it's fun to use them when I do remember, which is usually at the beginning of episodes. Um, so obviously it's kind of you've already mentioned a few things here and there, and I always like to say you start your story wherever makes most sense, which you have done. So you took on being an adult, very young age. What kind of stuff does that look like? Because it is a very common occurrence, really.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily, I can't find the words that I want to describe in this moment. So I'm going to find my words and then I'm going to interrupt you later.
Well, and it's not for me, it wasn't obvious. I mean, in when I was
You
young,
found
like,
my words for me.
oh, okay. Well, when I was, I mean, I can remember my parents divorced when I was 8, so I can remember like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, being responsible for my own siblings, and we were all very close in age. The youngest was 6 years younger than, or 5.5 years younger, and then my sisters were like 18 months. We were like that, but I was taking care of them. And what I mean by that is just kind of protecting them from the outbursts that my parents had. I didn't want them to be afraid, so I was taking care of them that way. Or my mother would send me on errands to the neighborhood houses to invite people to come over, instead of, instead of doing things herself, she would have me do it.
My kid is interrupting. You want to say hi? Come say hi. Look, this is my. Hold on. There you go. There's my little pain in the butt.
Hi, I'm
Yay.
autistic, so I don't really care that I interrupted.
Autism does not grant you immunity for doing inappropriate behaviors. Um, She wants me to add her to our Nintendo family membership thingy, which I don't know how to do in this moment of my life, but we do have one. So just go on my account and do it.
But it's on my Animal Crossing.
So go on my account
I can't change my island.
and figure out how to add you.
I know how. You gotta go on the website.
Then I can't right this minute. You'll have to wait. Okay, so, but that's just it. It is a gradual
You're lucky I'm not
thing.
my dog then.
It's a gradual thing that you don't necessarily know. And I
No.
mean, as a child, you don't think anything of it because that's just your life. It's just happening.
Well, and for me, it felt like I was important.
Yeah.
My mom, I was getting a positive attention from her. And so it made me feel important that I was the head, the oldest, and I could
Right.
take care of these things for her. But what I did not know, like what I didn't understand is that I was missing out on other things that young children do. I mean, I had all the playtime and all that, but like I taught myself how to ride a bike. And I
Okay.
taught myself how to do some things because my parents weren't there necessarily. So I can
Yeah.
look back and see the responsibilities that I shouldn't have had. And when I became an adult and started realizing that I was tired of it was a burden. And
Mhm.
even while living in my own life with my own home with my own children, I still have felt so much pressure to be there, to come to their home if my parents needed me. That pressure.
Right.
And one day I just told my mom, I called her. I was realizing that I felt stressed going to their house because it was still, even when they were divorced, they still carried that baggage into their new
Mm.
marriages. And my mom would always want her kids to become, and I realized, why am I stressed every time I leave the house? Going first, I'm stressed, thinking about it, anxious. I'm anxious. And then when I leave, I'm exhausted. And that might just be for a day or something. And I
Mhm.
realized it's such a toxic environment over there. And my home is different because I've taken a different approach. And so
Yes.
one time they were getting together for an event, family something or another. And by this time there's six kids because my mom had another baby who I adore, my baby sister. She's almost 40 now, or she's in her,
But
and
she's
then
still your baby
she's
sister.
still my baby sister. And then, not 40, but 50. And then there's my,
She'll probably prefer
step,
you saying 40.
what?
She'll prefer you saying 40.
I know she would, but my daughter's about to turn 40. That's what's so
Oh,
crazy.
wow. That is
And,
crazy.
but anyway, I got the nerve up. I was finding my voice. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, I'm just not going to be able to make it this weekend. And she was so disappointed. And the people pleaser in me would
Mm.
have just said, okay, I'll come, I'll come. But I was trying to take a stand with my voice. And she said, but you're the rock of the family.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, but Mom, I never asked to be the rock of the family. I don't want that role anymore.
Ooh, that's a good response.
And she was upset, but she didn't cause a fuss. She just said, well, okay. And I didn't go, and I did not feel bad about it. I felt relieved.
That's really cool because that's a hard thing to get to. Where it's like, hey, I recognize now that this is harder for me than it should be.
Hmm.
Emotionally draining. Like, this is not how a healthy relationship should be going on. But to actually be able to voice it and do something and set a boundary, which I just wrote an article about on my Substack, just go read it. But to be able to set a healthy boundary and say, it's not that I don't love you, right? Like, you never said, I hate you, I'm not coming. It's, this is just
Mm,
not going to work for me right now. Like, I
yeah.
just can't. And that is very impressive. That is
Well,
serious growth.
it took, and that was after a long period of growth. It was near, I was probably, I started that really deep dive right at around 45 when I was, after Michael died. But this was probably about my 50s. I
Mm-hmm.
was, or, late 40s, early 50s. So it was a long road, and it was not something that just came to me and I just yeah, it wasn't, but you're right. It is after a lot of healing that has to happen. I don't want people to think, well, that's what you need to do. Just tell them no.
Right?
No,
It's just that easy. Just say
it's just that
no.
easy. It
Right?
took it took a lot of courage for me to say that.
Yeah.
But afterwards, I was surprised by the feeling I had of not feeling guilty about it. I felt, wow, you did something for yourself.
That's impressive, actually. That is very impressive because it is not an easy thing to do. I'm
Mm-mm.
struggling with a certain person in my life that I am trying to figure out how to set those boundaries and articulate them in a way that is not going to be hurtful, but it needs done.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna take some of you with me in this journey that I'm on for that.
The boundaries thing is hard. I talk about that
Mhm.
in the book, but it is really hard, and you have to like what you're saying you're doing. It's individualized. It's
Yes.
uh, you and I are different, so we're going to set different boundaries for different things, but
Yeah.
also the people we want or need to set boundaries with, we may not even feel like we really want to, but we need to, and we know we need to.
Yes.
We're going to be individuals too, so each one is going to be different the way you approach your
Yeah.
talk to them and what kind of boundaries you set with them. And if I can be honest with you,
Yes.
sometimes I didn't necessarily speak the boundaries, as in I'm setting
Yes.
a boundary and this is what it needs to be. But I created them and simple
Yes.
things. I created them in my mind, and then went through with it. Like for instance, with both my parents, it would be very, very hard talking on the phone with them because we'd get into the niceties first,
Yeah.
and then they'd have to bring up some. Well, my dad was like, "Well, you decided to call me after all that," being very passive
Mm.
aggressive and all that.
Yes.
And I had to
Yes.
learn how to just ignore those comments. And one way I did that with both of my parents is seeing them as the age they were emotionally, because they were emotionally
Yes.
mature. And so if you can notice someone in your life that has that emotional immaturity and recognize about the age of their behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mother, bless her heart, she's gone from us now. But she was more like an 8 to 10-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
Is the way I kind of saw her, maybe a little young. My dad was between a toddler sometimes and a teenage boy, a
Jeez.
12-year-old boy. And
Yeah.
so when they made any kind of comments to me, I just imagined them as that little person, and I didn't talk
Yeah.
down to them,
Mm-hmm.
but I would, excuse a few things they said, or then, change the subject to something more
Mm-hmm.
pleasurable to talk about. And the thing they love talking about the most is themselves.
That was gonna be my guess when you started saying. I was gonna like, ah, themselves.
Yeah.
You said so much right there that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're speaking to my soul right now. So like I said, there's a person that I'm trying to figure this thing out with, and that advice, well, wisdom, we don't like to say advice, wisdom that you've learned over the years of treat them as the emotional age. I have been saying that, and I'm like, nope, this person, like reminding myself, although it's so frustrating when you are dealing with family, um,
Hmm.
and you can't say the things you want to say because it's just going to end up in an argument or tears or whatever. And so you're trying to be the bigger person.
Yeah.
Um, but really, it's more about trying to maintain your own mental well-being
Yes.
while getting a point across without causing so much disruption that you're going to lose it anyways, right? You're losing your, I don't want to say battle, but you're losing your discussion. That's not a good word, but like what you're trying to, your point to get across.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky. And there was something else that you said that I was like, oh, the phone call. So you're like identifying something that is difficult, and I was like, oh, yes, again, you're speaking to my soul, figuring that out. Um, but you were saying that you didn't always speak the boundaries. You didn't even always use the
Yeah, I
words.
don't, the reason, like, and that was necessary for my parents. It wasn't really necessary for other people. Like, when I'd get the nerve, I'd say, I'm going to be vulnerable here. But I need to let you know that what that discussion or that visit or whatever we did, um, I was not comfortable. I was uncomfortable, and I don't think it was done with intention to hurt me. But and so from now on, I think it's best if we talk when we both have the right time instead of trying to squeeze in something or trying to rush through something. Things. I mean, boundaries are just practical ways of communication,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
I just think so with my parents. I knew that if I talked on the phone with them for more than 10 or 15 minutes, it was going to go into another,
Mm-hmm.
they were going to pick an argument with me, or they were going to find something that I had done wrong and they wanted to get it out, or they'd go into politics or into something
Oh
else that I
yeah.
didn't want to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would plan my calls, and say, okay, I'll call them at this time and 10 minutes, 5, 10 minutes, we'll see how it goes. If I can't direct the conversation back to something more friendly, I will just tell them, oh, wow, so and so just walked in the door, or I've got dinner cooking, I need to get going.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, I need to get out, I don't want to talk to you anymore, I need to go. There was one time that my dad got really, this was when I was first learning how to do this
Yeah.
boundary stuff on the phone. And he started just cutting me down and condemning
Mm.
things I had said. I'm like, well, and this was also when I had learned not to let those words get to me, because even though they can be hurtful, he is hurting, he is projecting his hurt onto me. And
Yes.
so I would be like, oh gosh, Dad, I didn't realize the time. I'm going to need to let you go, but we'll call and talk another time. And I said, I love you.
Yeah.
Goodbye. And I hung
Yeah.
up. I just
Yeah.
didn't give him a chance. But my dad being the alcoholic, and he's 90 now, so we don't
Holy
have to
moly.
worry about that. He's almost 91. But with his alcohol, I would not answer the phone if he called me at night,
Mm.
because I knew, through experience, that if he was calling me in the evening, he was drunk.
Yeah, that makes
So
sense.
I tried to plan my phone calls with him, or I'd call him first in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And
Smart.
so and that's a boundary that's unspoken.
Yep.
He didn't know I was doing that, but I
Mm-hmm.
was doing that for my own mental health. And
Yeah.
believe me, I wasn't calling every day or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was just when I needed to
When you
report
need it.
something or let him know about
Yeah.
the kids or something.
Yeah.
I just planned to have that in the morning. And
Yeah.
then, same kind of with my mom. It was kind of like she was not completely alert at that time. So it's like, you
Yeah.
know, and I would just, talk about niceties and how
Mm-hmm.
she's doing. Tell me how everything's going, and just agree, and then say, well, you know what, I've got to get back to work or whatever.
Mm.
And
Yeah, exactly. I do that at work when people are like keeping me on the phone. I'm like, oh, somebody needs me. They're calling me. Gotta go.
yeah, see, there's a boundary right there. You realize that
Yeah.
you,
But it's nice that because sometimes we can feel like an unspoken boundary is something being kept secret and being underhanded. And that is not the case, which is why I love your
no,
examples because it really shows that it's not secretive, it's not underhanded. It's caring and loving for yourself and really for the person because you're not being mean to them.
right.
So that's great.
And they eventually learned how to talk to me,
Yep.
because I would not get into their arguments, or I would not get into their
Mm-hmm.
talks that I didn't want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And, eventually I would share some things with them just so they would know I'm working on my health, Mom. I'm working on my emotional and mental health. And
Yes.
in those instances, I would share with her. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't expect her to comprehend most of what I was saying.
Yeah.
And she even told my sisters sometimes that I was pulling away from the family and I was distancing myself,
Mm-hmm.
and they would call them. And we got to talking about how her behavior of triangulation was triangulating us, which is um, always wanting to have she had four daughters,
Oh,
and
wow.
she always wanted one to be her best friend. And
Okay.
so if you wouldn't go along with something, or you didn't agree with something she was trying to instigate, well, hang up from that one and call the next one and say, "Oh, I
Mm,
can't believe Shamayne. I don't know, she's mad at me and I don't know why. I haven't done anything." So that
mm.
sister wanting her attention then would say, "Oh, mom, I don't know. I don't know why she's like that. I'm not mad at you, you know."
Yeah,
But we
yeah.
were a part of the game
Yep.
until we started talking to each other. And
Mm-hmm.
I started by calling my baby sister and I said, "Do you notice how mom stirs the pot with us?" Yes. Does she do that to you too? Oh my gosh. I thought I was the only one. I'm like, no,
Yep.
she'll talk about y'all to me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
called the next sister. Do you, and we all, when we all realized that she was doing that
Mm-hmm.
to each other,
Yeah.
then we could talk about it and start to recognize the patterns that she had and how they were affecting our relationships. The sister right under me, she one time said, "She ruined my life. I always thought you were mad at me. She always told me you didn't
Oh,
like me, you know." And I'm like, no.
that's awful.
Yeah, we had to really mend those
Yeah.
relationships for that.
That's
But you know, all of
awful.
that is mental health. My mother
Exactly.
struggled with mental health challenges of her own because she had not dealt with the trauma from her own life. She
Hmm.
refused to talk about it, and
Yes.
did
I've
and
I've told my mom that she needs to go to therapy, and her response was, "Well, talking about it isn't going to change anything." I'm like, there's literally an entire industry around the fact that it does change things and
it's
it is helpful. Like, there's an entire industry. And I can speak personally, yeah, it does work. And I've
it-
talked to over 200 people, and yeah, it does work. Like, I'm
oh my
like,
gosh. Yep. My mom pretty much, she was the one who had all the books in her big library that she had, and I don't know how many she read, but she was also, and not many, but she was she was part of a high control religious, you
okay.
know, group. So her answer would always be to say prayer,
Yeah.
you know, and there's nothing wrong with prayer. However, it became a handicap. It was something that she turned
Yeah.
to every single time. Instead of talking it through, she would say,
Hmm.
um, "Well, just pray about it." I'm like,
Yeah.
But
Oh,
that was her. So
yeah.
it made me
Yeah.
sad because she missed out on so much
Right?
happiness that she was not acknowledging. Because when you
Hmm.
don't acknowledge if you try to push down the hard feelings and the
Hmm.
fear, you're also pushing down the joy and the other, you know, the
Yes.
positive emotions. If you can't feel the hard ones, it's even harder to feel the good ones. Or, you know, they're not bad and good and bad. They're just all emotions are just emotions.
Yes.
But the harder ones, pushing that down, you're also pushing down the ones that feel good. You
Yeah,
know.
exactly. We don't want to box them all up. We want to learn how to deal with them.
And walk through it. Yeah,
Yeah,
process it, whatever.
exactly. All the things.
All the things.
Go watch Inside Out. It will explain
Oh my gosh,
it.
that was that was the
So
best.
good.
Yeah,
So good.
emotionally intellectual movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
It's very good.
so good. Um, okay, so as you've grown and you've learned these different strategies to use and mended many relationships by the sounds of it,
Hmm.
um, how did you, I mean, as a parent, a lot of times, I was going to ask one thing, but then I thought, you know what? I want to ask this instead. As a parent, a lot of times we take our trauma from growing up and
Hmm.
we project it on our kids, just like our parents
Hmm.
did to us, and so on
Hmm.
and so forth. And that multi generational trauma is huge. And I think it being Mental Health Week, we need to talk about that a little bit
Sure.
because it is so ongoing. And when we have parents, as just like yours, where they're saying, well, no, that's not going to help. Therapy's not going to help.
Hmm.
Um, it really makes it difficult to then search out answers for yourself until you're old enough. So, as a
Hmm.
parent, how did you try to manage what had happened in your life to wanting that to not happen for your kids?
Yeah, no, that is such a good question. I had to ask myself that also.
Mhm.
Um, but I have to tell you, how experiences in our life sometimes go unnoticed of how they impacted your life until you're old enough to look back and say, oh.
Yes.
So one of the things because I just always loved children. I guess from, I adored my siblings as if they were my own. And
Mhm.
then when I was in college, I worked part-time working at after school daycares and, things
Oh,
I
that's
did
fun.
retail and after school daycare. Those are my jobs
Oh,
going through
that's
college.
fun.
And I was fortunate enough that I was hired by a company who thought very progressively when it came to adult-child relationships.
Oh, okay.
So the after-school program taught me a lot about positive parenting and positive, uh,
Oh,
you know,
okay.
meeting the child at their level and not talking down to them, but they're just little
Mm-hmm.
humans. And
Yes.
so I was fortunate in that aspect, but I didn't think about it then, but I tucked it in my pocket. I also became friends with the parents of those children, and I would watch them and I was like, "Oh, wow. My mom never did that. That's nice. That's really."
Right.
And so I was picking up from example. And so at that point, I was in my 20s and I was getting married. I didn't know it, but I'd be getting married in the next few years and
Mm-hmm.
start having my own children. And I carried those experiences with me. And so I just was constantly looking and comparing my parents to other parents, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
Um, but not everyone thinks to do that. And
Yeah.
so I think first of all, when I had my kids, I knew that I didn't want them to be raised the way I had been raised.
Yeah.
So, and I think people either are not aware of that or they go completely opposite of how their parents raised them and they choose a way that
Yeah.
they think is going to work. And I did the best I could. I mean, I showered
Mhm.
them with love and attention and nurturing. I did, I nursed my children when they were in the 80s, they were telling us to bottle feed at that time. I'm
Oh,
like, no,
really?
yeah. I was like, no, I'm going to nurse my children because I want that bond. And,
Mm-hmm.
so that's me. I'm just a very curious, I ask a lot of questions, inquisitive. I've just always been that way. And I think that helped me. But no, I was not perfect because when they got to be a little bit older, around preteen to teenage years,
Oh, those years.
when I dropped off and really didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
With my daughter, I tried to put myself in her shoes, being a young girl at one
Yep.
time. And my boys, I just winged it. And
Yeah.
and I made mistakes because I could see the patterns that I had had seen the slamming of the doors and walking out of the room because you didn't want to confront the issue or you didn't want to talk about,
Yes.
things like that. So I was doing things like that. And then one day around when it was later in life, and I was like, why do I do that? I don't want to do that anymore. It's
Mm-hmm.
not who I am or who I feel I am, but I get I so angry sometimes and I'm yelling and I'm like, why am I doing this? It's
Yeah.
not fair to them.
That makes
So
sense.
that's when I started going to therapy, and that's when I learned. That was when my divorce happened. That's when a lot of things started changing in my life. But I went to therapy, and that's when I learned terms like codependency, people
Mm.
pleasing, passive aggressive. I started learning all
Yeah.
the words and and recognizing where in my life I was doing that.
Ah, yes. All the lingo. So much lingo.
Hmm.
That's really good. And what kind of I mean, you've talked about a lot of different strategies, but what ones did you learn in therapy that you found were really effective? For
with
anything.
my
Some
relationship with my kid or just relationships.
just yeah, relationships
Yeah.
in general. I think that's a very something that everyone can identify with because we all have relationships.
Yes. And I think learning how to be self-aware,
And how did you do that?
by identifying behaviors that were unappealing to me and
Mm.
hard. where I knew I was affecting the other person based on that behavior, but naming that emotion, knowing that I was bringing home my stress from work and displacing it or projecting it onto my husband or my kids, and the way that would happen is I would snap really quickly, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll and so when I began being self-aware of that, I would I remember one argument in particular when I first did this, and I was with I'm married again, so I have a
Yeah.
second husband, and we were having this argument in the kitchen, and I said, and I heard in my head, okay, you've had a bad day at work. He didn't do anything. He just said something, and you just, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I said, I'm sorry, hold on just a minute. I'll be right back. So I left the room and I went into my closet and I'm like, okay, why are you saying these things to him? He did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
You had a bad day at work. You felt insecure about what happened. You felt like I started naming the feelings I was feeling.
Ah.
And then I came out and I said, okay, let's start over. I said, I had a really bad day today. Somebody
Mm-hmm.
said something and it made me feel this big, and I've been feeling that big all day long. And then when I
Yeah.
come home, you just happened to mention something and I took offense to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't your fault. It's because I was feeling this way already.
Yeah.
And so, and so from then
Wow.
on, every time I'd have that, something would spark it. I'd be, wait a minute, why am I talking like this? Why
Yep.
am I reacting this way? Leave the room if I had to, then come back and explain myself and say, I'm sorry.
That is very helpful. Yeah. Okay, so a couple things. One, naming emotions. Oh my gosh, my therapist had to help me figure out what the heck emotions were. Um, maybe because I'm a little autistic, maybe because of all my trauma, maybe a little both.
There's a lot of emotions.
There is, and she literally gave me. It wasn't a chart. It was like more of a circle because like there's emotions all on a spectrum, right? Like it's not just
Mhm.
happy or sad. It's like I'm happy and then I'm elated and I'm
Right.
joyful,
Mhm.
and that's all on the
Mhm.
same spectrum. So every time I go into therapy, we're talking, and I'm like, wait, I need my paper. I don't know which one. And hold on, and I literally look, and I'm talking, I'm in my 30s, right? Like I'm looking at this piece of paper because I didn't know what the heck my emotions were, and
Oh.
looking at this. So emotions are hard to identify. So first off, if you are feeling that you're like, I don't even know where to begin because fine is not an emotion. My therapist told me this so
Mm-mm.
often. How are you? Fine, but like, how are you emotionally? What are you feeling? Fine is not a feeling. So it's okay if you're like, I have no idea because it's actually
Right.
much more common than you think because
Right.
I think a lot of times we take for granted that kids are just going to learn what their feelings are, so adults just know what they are.
Right.
That's not the case a lot of times. So it's okay if you need to learn what they are. And then the other thing that you were saying, you went into your closet and figured things out. I've learned dealing with my lovely autistic child who she's very good now, but back in the day, oh my gosh, sometimes I just wanna die. Um,
Mhm.
but she, she would have these outbursts, and growing up, outburst equals fight, 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 right?
Mhm.
So I tried to remember, as you said before, remember emotionally, she is not 13 years. She's not a 13-year-old girl. Emotionally, she is a 3-year-old child. Trying to put
Mhm.
that in my head. So I started saying, um, you're yelling at me. I'm not yelling at you. Why are you yelling
Mhm.
at me? And it just like snapped her and going, I don't mean to yell at you. Right? Like she didn't even realize
Yeah.
it was happening. So kind of similar to you where you're like, I just had an outburst. It's like, wait, why am I having an outburst at you? And you were able to calm yourself down. But a tool that maybe some parents, because we're talking, parents in different relationships. I even say that to my husband sometime actually. And he'll be like,
Yeah.
same with you, I'll be like, oh, I had a bad day at work. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Cool. Just know that you're yelling at me right now. And I didn't do
Right.
that to you.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
I'm not the one that did this today.
right?
Remember. Well, you
So,
have to separate that. You have to
yeah,
separate yourself from that emotion too, because you're
yep,
not the emotion. The emotion
exactly.
is happening to you. And so, but you're still in charge. And
Exactly.
so the thing I found with my children when they were young is if I started getting that that frustration, that
Mm.
anger, and I wasn't angry with them. I was angry with the atmosphere. It was just
Yeah.
too chaotic, and I had two boys, and I would sometimes hear a lamp fall over and
Oh,
break. Or I
yeah,
hear
boys.
a mirror.
Yeah.
Something would break inevitably because they were roughhousing all the time.
Yeah.
And, but sometimes I would just have to tell them, um, okay, guys, mommy's overstimulated right now, and I'm going to go into the bedroom and take a few minutes for myself,
Yeah.
and I'll be right back. And because I had to separate myself from
Yeah.
those emotions,
Which is
in order to be calm.
totally okay, and actually highly recommended to do so. And that's another awesome point. As an overall mental health, I'm giving us a big brief overview for Mental Health Awareness Week. Um, Identifying our emotions is not to be taken for granted. Telling
Hmm.
somebody how you're feeling is important, and
Hmm.
saying I need to go and take a break because I'm overstimulated. Um, you can't expect somebody else to know what's happening up in your brain. So if you
Right.
don't verbalize it, they're not going to know. And sometimes if you just walk out of the room, this is something that I've had to learn. It's, yeah, verbalize why you're walking out of the room. Because if somebody walks out of the room and you're in a fight, it's super common. Either A, oh, they're so mad at me because they're leaving, or
Hmm.
B, I'm going to follow you because we are not done this conversation.
Hmm. Hmm.
Neither of those are helpful.
Hmm.
And so if you are able to articulate, I'm overstimulated, I'm going to take a break, and then we can go back to what we were discussing because we're
Regroup.
not going to get anywhere constructive. Cool.
Yeah.
So let them know. And if somebody is bothering you, if you have the words, if you're able to, and say, hey, you're yelling at me, I'm not yelling at you, like, calm
Hmm.
down. Cool. Well, don't say calm down. Calm down never helps anybody. But
No. It usually makes.
just the simple, you're yelling at me, I'm not yelling at you. It really does kind of go,
Hmm.
um, and just finding those different words. But sometimes we have our unspoken boundaries, which is totally okay too. A little harder when you're in a parent relationship or a spousal
Yeah.
relationship because you're in the
Yeah.
house. But a ton of different tools that are not specific to any one type of mental illness or even a diagnosed one. They're just great tools for life.
Yes. Yes. And remember that boundaries are for you to prevent those things coming to you that you can't handle on,
Hmm.
that you aren't,
Yes.
it's not to you're not putting them on them because it's for your own benefit, and
Yeah.
it
You
and
need to
actually
protect your
it's
mental health and
protecting you, and it's not against them, it's for you. And um, there was a point boundaries are not meant to control people. It's not meant to manipulate them. They're meant to have a healthy relationship, and relationships that have healthy boundaries are much stronger than those that have no boundaries. You're not going to have a healthy, strong relationship with someone if you don't have certain boundaries that are needed there. So boundaries make relationships stronger.
see, I remembered the fun tunes. The fun, because yes, 100,000 times yes. Not to cut you off, but
No,
I
that's
needed to get the cheering in there because I was like, yes.
okay.
Um. Okay, so we're starting to run out of time. Sad, so sad. What is your piece of wisdom? I mean, we've talked about a ton of different things and a ton of different great stuff. And I have words. What is your piece of wisdom? Let's give it to a parent. Actually, no. You know what? What is your piece of wisdom to an adult child struggling with their relationship with their elderly parent who maybe is kind of similar what we've been talking about where they are like, no, therapy is not a thing. No, I'm not going to change. Well, what's your piece of wisdom to them
Well, I would ask them to remember that they are humans. They're just like you and me. They are trying to figure out the world just as much as we are. Adults and older adults, just because we've lived longer doesn't mean we've figured it out all out. And
Mm-hmm.
especially the way things continue to change and move at such a fast pace. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Just see them as another human. They're not. to be put on a pedestal or not to be the one that I always thought my parents knew more than me and always would have the right answers for me, but they
Mm-hmm.
didn't. And as I learned, you know what, they're just people like me. um, and it was funny around my 40s. I'm like, you know what? I think I've learned more about life than they have. I'm actually,
Yeah,
I'm ahead of the game. So you might be ahead of the game with your own parents, and
yeah.
you have give them some slack because they're not perfect. And if you need to set some boundaries with them, set some boundaries with them. And actually, it was great to see how my parents over the years came back around and treated me with more respect than they had, because they were no longer using those abusive tactics and things that were
Mm-hmm.
uh, the patterns of I'm in charge. My mom told me one time, you owe me, I'm your mother, and how many times have you heard that? You owe me, I'm your parent. Well, I didn't ask to be born. I was your responsibility,
That's what
and
my
you
kid
didn't
always
have that.
says. My
So
kid's always like, "You brought me here without my permission." I'm like, "Well, now you're stuck here." Ha ha.
well, I told that day it was something I was not agreeing with her on, and so that was her
Mm,
quick comeback. She always had something to. So her response. My daughter, who was in her 20s, her 30s, I think at that time, and she's looking at me and said something. I'm like, well, Mom, I don't really agree with that. I think there's more than one side to this. Well, you owe me, Shamayne. I'm your mother. And I looked at her and I said, Mom, I don't owe you anything. I owe my daughter everything.
oh
And
snap!
and that did really upset her, but I felt that way. I felt like I'm tired of feeling like I owe you something for being here when you
Yeah.
neglected so much. And I forget, I see why you did those things. You didn't know better. However, I don't owe you anything, but I do owe my daughter everything. I owe my sons everything. They deserve the best version of me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sorry. That was a long, long way to say what the wisdom is. But basically, just
That's
know
okay.
they're
That's
human.
okay.
They're not perfect, and you've got to meet them where they are.
I
And
love it.
if you can't be around them, don't be around them. Just do
Yeah.
figure all that out.
That is fantastic. All right. And on that lovely note, now it's time to promote yourself.
Oh, yes.
Tell us
My
a little
beautiful
bit
book.
about this book that you said just came out.
Oh, my beautiful book was a long time coming. I never expected to be an author. I think I'm
It's how it
more of
gets you.
a It does, but I think I'm more of a creator and a visionary.
Okay.
I feel like what the book offers a guide. It's a guide. It's a teaching memoir, but it guides you through. And I wrote this from my heart and I'm a woman, so I really wrote to other women. Although some
Okay.
men have said they found value in it, but so I'm going to speak to this from my voice, speaking to other women, and
Yes.
I feel like my book walks women. I feel like I take them by the hand and let's just go down this path of midlife transition and transformation to become your most authentic self. And who are
Hmm.
you? Who are you underneath the motherhood and the the daughter and the wife and the career person who carries the burden for so many people in the office and in the company? Who are you underneath all of that? So
Yes.
that was my question to myself when I was around 41, and I
Mm.
had a burning desire to really understand myself. So that's the book. Um, the workbook actually came before that, and Randy-lee, I just was so desperate to find a way to help women in a very neat little package. I wanted to have some steps or some, things that could line up and really help a woman
Mm.
easily so they could
That
skip
is a
all
good
the,
idea.
most of the work. And here's what happened. I had a dream, and in the dream, I was going for a walk with a coworker, her, and before we left, I always changed into my walking shoes.
Oh, it
And
disappeared. Well, there I am.
yeah, well, that's
Because
what
I'm in so much green.
You're blending it, you're camouflage. And as we walked through the office and then went downstairs to go out the front door for a walk, when we opened the doors to go outside, I just looked down at my feet and all I had on was socks. I had forgotten my shoes.
Oh.
And so I thought, oh, how can you forget your shoes to go for a walk? You need shoes. Unless you're on the beach, you've got to have a pair of shoes to walk. So I turned back around, and that's when I woke up. And I lay there in bed thinking about it, and then got up and went to the bathroom. As I'm washing my hands, I felt a warmth come over me. And the warmth, with that, I heard something in my head say, "You're going to teach women to find their shoes for their journey." And that's why the title is Shoes That Fit Her Soul. And
makes sense.
immediately I knew that was my calling. That was my mission. And I was tearing up, and I woke up my husband. I said, I know what I'm going to do now. And while I was talking to him, the shoe fell into 8 pieces. There were 8 components of the shoe. And the sole of the shoe represents our soul. It is our support. Our foundation. The soul is the foundation, and our foundation is deep inside of us. We need to rebuild that up to be more authentic of who we are. Then the heel was that healing that needs to take place from those things behind us in our past. We get stuck when we're trying to carry that load that we need to let go of, and we just need to figure out what that is. And that's what we talked about today, was a lot of the things we need to recognize and let go of them. And the shoe, it just keeps going. The arch is having a support system of people that you trust that can help you through your journey, and then setting boundaries with those who are going to hold you back. Then the toe is trusting your intuition. The toe points in a forward direction, leading you one step at a time. You don't have to do this all at once. Just take one step at a time. One day it might be talking to a bill collector that you've been putting off. That's one step, because that's going to help you move forward again. And that's what the toe is. The tongue is our voice. The tongue of the shoe represents our voice, and knowing that we have a voice and we need to use it to speak our values and our beliefs. That was something what you mentioned about the wheel of the emotions. I had to in my 40s, I had to Google values. I didn't even know what my values were, or at least I didn't know what I knew. The last ones are the eyelets of the shoe represent our vision. And creating goals and a vision. I would visualize who I wanted to be. And then I would make goals in order to become that person I wanted to be. And then the laces come in and tie everything together and create connection. Connection is the strongest energy between ourselves and each other. So with that strong connection to yourself, you're going to have better relationships with others. And the last part is the stitching of the shoe. And the stitching goes all around the shoe, and that's our journey. And what we need to understand about our life story and our journey is that our past is part of us, but it does not define us. We get to decide who we are and who we will become. And when you get to that end of that, you have developed that your life story becomes your legacy. So write the story that you want to leave loved ones.
I like that. Where are people going to buy it?
Right now, the book and workbook are available on Amazon and my website, which is shoesthatfithersoul.com. And that's soul, SOUL.
Love that. And where are people going to follow you?
I am on socials at Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, all those right now.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me and having this very lovely, heartfelt conversation. Again, because I'm pretty sure we talked December, January? I don't know, something. Anyways, be sure to, if you have not already, hit the like and subscribe. I don't have words left in my world. Like and subscribe button. Share these episodes out. We talk about very important things. This episode, I mean, all the episodes are great, but this one specifically is very wide reaching because we weren't talking about any one specific I mean, we talked about trauma a lot, but like really, we talked about relationships, and everyone has relationships with coworkers, spouses, parents, all sorts of things. So really good information. Share these out. Plus, I mean, look at my cool lipstick. Everybody should see it. Be sure to check out Shamayne's links down in the description below. We've got all those, so you can be sure to follow her. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly.